Hey, it's Mark Ferguson with Invest for More. I'm standing outside a fix and flip we actually bought a few months ago. Was rented by a Section 8 tenant, and they're set to move out in a few weeks. However, we got a $1,700 water bill from the city. So our plumber came over here today and said that there was pretty much water on this whole floor. And you can see right here, there's still some water we need to get cleaned up. But there's the leak, was down there, which she said was fixed, but then there's another leak right there. You can see the pipe split, and the only way to really do that is if the pipe froze. So the other interesting thing is when our plumber came in, the electric was off, the gas was off, and all the windows were wide. Hey everyone, it's Mark Ferguson with Invest for More, and welcome to another one of our complete before and after house flip videos. So what you just saw was a look at a flip that we bought with Section 8 tenants in place. So we bought the property knowing we would have to get them out at some point and then repair the house and sell it. That was the plan. However, this property did not go according to plan at all. So we had the tenants who left, the house flooded, we ended up having a foundation problem. We had to install the kitchen twice. This was the definition of a nightmare flip. And I know that term is thrown around a lot, but this one was crazy and it took us forever to finally get it sold. Now, after everything that happened, it was not an amazing deal for us, but it could have been much, much, much worse as far as the profit and loss on the property. So we'll get right into it. Of course, check out investformore.com for much more information on my flips, rentals, wholesaling, being an agent, all that good stuff. And I also have 8 books on Amazon if you're looking for more in-depth information on all of those subjects as well. All right, so this was a house we bought from the MLS, a multiple listing service where real estate agents list their houses. We paid $155,100 for it. Now, I saw the property. It wasn't in that bad of shape when I first saw it. I thought it would be a quick, easy flip, like $20,000 in work, maybe a little more. And I thought we could sell it for, I think, $215,000 to $225,000. Not a huge amount of profit because we have other costs that we'll go over as well. We go over all the costs in these videos, but a decent amount of profit. What ended up happening was it took us 16 months to sell this house, which is crazy. And we sold it for $227,500 minus $5,000 in closing costs we paid for the seller. So really it was $222,500, which is an okay margin. But because of how long it took us and the repairs we had to make that we were not expecting, it was not a very good flip. And that's something we're going to talk about too. You see the house flipping shows, and they sell a house in 2 months with no extra costs. We go through all of those costs. We talk about those costs. We'll talk about property taxes, interest on the loan, insurance, utilities, all the carrying costs you have when you flip a house. And so when you have a house for 16 months, those costs just skyrocket. So let's get right into it, and we'll show you the full video of what this house looked like the first time we got into it. We tried calling them, contacting them. They would not get back to us. Finally left a note on their door. They called, said we could come in, but there was a plumbing leak. And it turns out that there was a water leak. They moved out a few weeks ago, didn't tell us, and there is some damage to the house. So not sure exactly what's going on, but we'll take a look at it, kind of show you the leak so far and some of the damage, and go from there. So technically, they still have a bunch of stuff in here, but we have the right to go in with notice, and we gave them 24 hours notice. And we especially have the right to come in to preserve the property. So I used to do a ton of REOs, bank foreclosures, listing those properties. And the bank has the right to come in, winterize the property, take care of it if it's vacant or if there's a major problem. They have the right to protect the collateral on the loan. So kind of the same situation with this, where we have the right to come in per the lease, especially if there's a water leak, to come in and fix it. And our plumber came over here today and said that there was pretty much water on this whole floor. And you can see right here, there's still some water we need to get cleaned up. But there's a leak, was down there, which she said was fixed, but then there's another leak right there. You can see the pipe split, and the only way to really do that is if the pipe froze. So the other interesting thing is when our plumber came in, the electric was off, the gas was off, and all the windows were wide open. So that makes you wonder if they're trying to freeze the house on purpose. However, the other interesting part is they had shut the water off at least. So if they're trying to freeze the house on purpose and flood it, they won't have shut the water off. It's hard to know exactly what happened. But this property really wasn't bad when I bought it. It's still not horrible. Needs a roof, needs carpet, paint, possibly, some counters in the kitchen, now some plumbing work. So it was going to be a pretty easy flip. We'll see. Hopefully this doesn't make too big of a problem here. We bought it for $155, and the ARV is probably around $220, in that range. It's a 2-bedroom, 1-bath. And then this hardwood, maybe we can save it in the living room. I don't know. The thing is, it's all connected, so if it's bad over there, we might have to replace all of it. It was in decent shape. We'll probably be spending $15,000 to $20,000 on it after doing the roof and everything else. But yeah, I got here. They'd closed most of the windows, but this window was still wide open. So obviously, maybe they were trying to do damage and just didn't know how, didn't realize they need to leave the water on if they wanted a house to flood. That could be the only explanation here. So that's the house. We'll get the heat and electric turned back on. For Section 8, she gets a massive amount of funding from the city and state. So it's really not smart to damage a property or leave all your junk there. The bug just flew in my mouth. That was nice. Because you'll lose your Section 8 assistance, which means you might just lose $700-800 a month of your $900 rent payment, and you're going to end up paying $1,200-1,300 a month for a property instead of $100 or $200 a month. And as you can see, they left a bunch of stuff. So supposedly they're coming back to get everything, but there's a truck under that blue tarp. I have a hard time believing they're going to come clean everything out here. I could be wrong, but we'll see. So that's the property. We'll see what happens. We'll keep everyone updated. Always interesting when you buy properties with tenants in place. The house over there across the street is one we own as well. That's one we bought a few weeks ago. The house got partially flooded, and now the tenants have left us even more fun stuff in the form of many vehicles, and they won't talk to us, so not sure exactly what we're going to do with it. And then we come here today, and they have picked up some of the stuff from inside. Some of the furniture is gone, but they left even more vehicles here. So this truck was not here before, and now it's got a giant load of tires and junk in it. Again, this trailer was not here a couple days either. So they left this here for some reason. Not sure they're moving because there's not a whole lot of stuff in it. That door was just open, and there's like a motorcycle and some bikes, nothing too valuable. And then of course they left us a giant pile of tires that I don't believe was here either, unless it was in the garage, which we couldn't see in before. So tires are always fun to get rid of too, because the dumps won't take them. So there's some hoops you gotta jump through there. All kinds of random parts. Another truck they left that we left a note on. And then in the garage, more junk, more trash. And this property we bought for $155,100 from the MLS. It's probably worth $250 215 to 220 after it's fixed up. And I was kind of counting on it being a real simple, easy rehab. But with all these costs that are adding up with removing this stuff, it's become a lot less quick and a lot. Hey, it's Mark Ferguson with Investor More, standing outside a house flip that we've been working on here for a little while. This is a property that we had quite a few issues on and probably won't make a whole lot of money on because of those issues. We've bought properties with Section 8 tenants before, really never had a problem. And I know a lot of people have horror stories about them, but we haven't had a problem. And this is not a video to rip on Section 8, but there's good and bad people in every situation. So what happened was they were renting the house. We told them they needed to leave because their lease was up. Gave them 60 days notice. They left without telling us. Turned the heat off. House ended up flooding. The floors were just destroyed. Had to tear them out. Had to tear out a bunch of the subfloor because it was soaked through. Had to air out the crawl space to get it all dried out. We had to tear out probably 3 to 4 feet of drywall in most of the house because it was wet and we didn't want it growing mold. So we probably had a good, this house is probably worth $220 to $225,000, and we're hoping for a real light rehab, you know, in the $10,000 to $15,000 range, where now we're looking more like $25,000 or $30,000. So we have come in, painted everything, replaced doors, drywall, as you can see. Our kitchen is on back order, so that's what we're waiting for right now. Not on back order, Home Depot's being a little slow getting it to us. So once that's done, we'll get that installed. For the meantime, we have the house across the street, so we're working on that one until our kitchen comes in on this one. This flooring is not the most beautiful flooring in the world, but we got a ton of it for almost nothing from Home Depot on clearance. And so since we're tight on budget on this house, we decided to get rid of some of it here. The bathroom, like I said, was pretty nice before. Oh, turn the lights on. And we were able to at least keep the tile in the tub, but had to tear out the vanity, redo the floor in there, things we weren't expecting. And in here, paint, quite a bit of drywall done in here as well. So just a lot of extra costs that we weren't expecting to have. Now this house also had a number of cars, if you guys remember it, a couple trucks, trailer, all kinds of stuff left by the tenant when they moved out. So they did come back and get those things. So we didn't have to get rid of them. I know some of you people wanted to buy or me to take those vehicles, but they came back and got them. And you can't just take someone's cars because they leave them behind. There's a whole process you have to go through, and it is not easy. But they came back and got them, left a bunch of other junk, but they got their cars, which was nice. Didn't fix anything that they broke. And I'm sure they lost their Section 8 vouchers because of this. We did tell Section 8 what happened, and they didn't do anything about it, wouldn't help, but they said they were not renewing their vouchers. Something else I missed when I bought this, because I never got in that garage, is that tree when we got in the garage. Yeah, slight problem here. Why you don't plant trees right next to houses or garages. We were giving notice to the tenants to leave, so we gave them notice to leave, and they moved out 2 weeks prior to when they were supposed to move out, and did not tell us they're moving out, which is in their lease. They have to tell us and do a walkthrough right in the middle of winter. And they turned the heat off, and pipes froze, and what were hardwood floors here were completely destroyed. We had to replace a bunch of subfloor. The kitchen cabinets were destroyed. Everything had to be torn out. We got to save some of the bathroom, but not all of it. So what was going to be like a $15,000 rehab turned into like a $30,000 rehab. So that window's getting replaced, the glass soon. That's one last thing we have to do. So we also had carrying costs, closing costs, financing costs of probably close to $20,000 on this one. And we're hoping it'll sell for $230, $225. So that's more than we thought it would sell for in the beginning, so that's nice. But it would have been a lot nicer if we didn't have to replace everything. These are Home Depot in-stock cabinets, so easy to get, easy to use, but would have been nice if we didn't have to use them in the first place. The bathroom, you can see, we replaced the vanity toilet. We were able to save the tile and the tub, I believe, yes. But had to tear out all the flooring, and we had to tear out a bunch of the sheetrock and drywall as well because it was so wet. You can't, dry out sheetrock, it will mold, so we had to tear it out, the parts that were wet. A lot of the windows were already new, so it's nice. We do have to replace the glass in a couple of them, but most of them were already newer. This is the one where we just got an $84,000 foundation bid, which was absolutely crazy. This has been one of our problem flips. I've not had one have this many issues in a long time. I've been doing this for like 17 years, flipped about 180 houses, and just the lot turned out, we thought this whole lot was ours. Turns out that lot right there is a separate lot, not owned by us. We had Section 8 tenants in it when we bought it. They moved out, didn't tell us the house flooded. We've had the garage tagged, lots of issues. So we finally got all fixed up, on the market, went under contract to sell, and the inspection came back. They wanted us to check out the foundation because the foundation was too shallow, and that was a surprise to us because the house is in very good shape. It's level, there's no cracks, no signs of heaving. So we had an engineer, had him come out, check out the house, and he said the foundation is too shallow, it's not below the frost line, it basically has to be completely redone. So we're like, okay, that's not good. So we offered the buyers $10,000 credit to take it. They almost took it, backed out. So then we had a foundation company come out, and they said, the house is level. It's within half an inch on every corner. There's no signs of it, sinking, doing anything. The house has been here 63 years and been fine. But they said, the engineer's right. The foundation's too shallow. We have to drill piers, put steel casings underneath it. $84,000 was their bid. So that was crazy. I knew it was crazy. Saying, do I want to keep it as a rental? What do I want to do? Well, for sure, I want to get another bid and see what someone else says. So I got recommendations from a Facebook investor group here in Colorado. Like 3 people recommended this company right away. They came out, met me that same week, looked at the foundation, looked at everything else, and guess what they said? First off, they gave us a nice little bid. Very detailed. It's not just it's a pretty major company. $5,000. And $1,000 of that is to pay an engineer to come through, reevaluate it, and sign off on it. $84,000 versus $5,000. And it just shows how crazy this business can be, because you'll see that with contractors, roofers, sidings, windows. If you want to pay, $100,000 to fix up a house, you can do it no problem. It's a lot harder to pay what you should be paying, reasonable costs. And what the second foundation company said was, yes, the foundation is shallower than it should be, but the house has been here 63 years. There's no signs of it sinking, settling. It would have fallen down. It would have had issues by now if it did. They said they see it all the time. They see foundations that shallow. It's not an issue unless there's visible damage to the foundation or the house. It's not going to just one day fall down. They said an engineer will have no problem signing off on it. The engineer that we used, for whatever reason, I don't know if he had a problem that day or a problem with us, but we even asked him for a recommendation of a foundation company, and he said, I'm not going to give that to you because this house is a shed. It's just going to fall down. You have to tear it down. And that's literally what he said. So the new foundation company will get an engineer out here, reevaluate. What they are going to do is they said it does need a beam across the middle here because it has some supports that are just sitting on dirt, and that's not good. They do need to fix that. And you can see the house is a little unlevel in the middle. Around the foundation, it's great. Just in the middle, it needs more support. So they're going to come in here, do that, pour footers, install the beam, get the engineer to sign off on everything, and that's all included in the $5,000. However, these tenants, when we tried to end their lease, they didn't want to leave, even though they're on month-to-month lease, and we ended up having to evict them. But before the eviction was done, they moved out in the middle of the month without telling us and turned off all the heat, and the house froze. So when the house froze, it flooded the kitchen and the living room, which had hardwood floors. So all the hardwood floors buckled, the floors in here buckled, the cabinets were trashed and moldy, the subfloor was bad. So we had to come in here and have our guys redo the kitchen, which we didn't think we'd have to do, redo the floor, all kinds of stuff. So I bought this for $155,000, was thinking it would be worth around $215,000 when we were done, and was hoping to spend like $20,000 on the repairs, maybe $25,000. And we've ended up spending probably more like $40,000, maybe more than that, after everything that's happened. So we had the flood, fixed up the house, got it repaired, and put it on the market. We had a few interested people. Then we got under contract, and they did their inspection. Well, during their inspection, their inspector said it looks like the foundation is only 18 inches deep. So the crawl space is actually right here. And I might just show you right now, because I have a lot to talk about and this house is small. But so the foundation is only 18 inches deep. And I don't know if you'll be able to see that. I showed another video. Oh yeah. So you can see right there, it should be 30 inches deep to go below the frost line, is what the inspector said. One of our other contractors come in and put the floor in right. And then you guys might remember too, in the before video, this kitchen opening was very narrow. Like, my hips barely made it through here. And then the contractors who were refixing our floor showed me over here, this drawer where it opened because it ran into the edge of this drawer when it was shut. And nobody found it. We didn't find it. Our first contractor didn't tell us. The inspector didn't find it when we had it for sale and under contract. Nobody knew it. And then once we were looking at everything, we realized there was fillers over here on this side where there didn't need to be fillers. It probably should have been a filler over here. And the kitchen wasn't put in exactly how it was drawn up. And that's part of the reason why that opening was so small. So we decided to pull out the entire kitchen again, took out the filler, put the cabinets back in. I think we ended up getting 2 smaller cabinets, ordered brand new cabinets, so that we had enough room for the fridge and enough room to put the filler in there. The drawer's now open. We moved that over 4 or 5 inches. Now you have a proper walkway, and it just looks much better. It works now. So, after a flood, installing the kitchen twice, doing foundation work, redoing the floor, we had to do some structural work in the roof because we replaced the roof, and later on it started sagging more because there were some trusses up there that were broken, so fix that. We also realized after we bought it that that's the neighbor's land right here, this corner lot we thought came with this property. That's totally my fault for just not paying attention. But that whole lot over there is not part of this property. So there's a tiny lot right there. And that was something I didn't know about. So all in all right, so how much did all of these repairs cost us on this house? Way more than they should have because of everything that happened. So we'll go through all of them. The roof was $8,500. That was a debacle too because we had the roof replaced. Turns out some of the trusses were not fully supported. They had some cracks in them, so we had to go back and fix that. And so we had extra costs for the roof. The paint, we painted the outside, the inside. We had a few extra costs for that because we had to come back and redo the kitchen. Cleaning up the yard, cleaning up the garage, touching up the trees. Oh, we had to take out some tree removal too. I just thought about that. We'll add that to our extra costs here. we may have to increase that amount. Flooring, you know, we're hoping not to replace all the flooring. It had some decent hardwood in it. Had to go through, replace all the flooring. That was an extra cost we weren't hoping for. The kitchen, $6,500, that's not bad for a kitchen, but we're buying all our stuff from Home Depot. It's pretty affordable. That should have been like $4,500, maybe $5,000, but we had extra costs there too because the cabinets weren't lined up right, they weren't installed right, so we had to go back and fix that. On another note, the contractor who did that no longer works for us, not because of that. We talked to him about that mistake. He started making more and more mistakes like that, and then pretty much he disappeared from the face of the earth, and we have not heard from him again. Although he did file for unemployment after all the coronavirus stuff and the increases in unemployment, although he quit, so he doesn't qualify for unemployment. The bath, we had to redo that, which we were hoping not to do as much as we did, but we didn't have to do too much there. The foundation, that was an extra cost we weren't thinking we would have. Luckily, as we saw, it was a very affordable fix compared to the $84,000 bid we got. The flood, obviously that was an unexpected cost. Had to tear out a lot of the flooring, tear out the kitchen. Really, this whole kitchen was an unexpected cost as well because we thought we could keep that kitchen in the beginning. Had to tear out drywall, redo that, make sure all the moisture was out of everything. That cost us quite a bit of money. Fixtures, we would have done that anyway, lights, faucets, things like that. And then miscellaneous costs. So we did a little bit of landscaping, not a lot there. We did have to remove a tree. We had to patch up the garage a little bit, fix that. So I'm gonna actually increase that sucker there. So we had a lot of costs on this property, and if you add all of this up, it's something like $39,400. It is $39,400 because I added it up on my calculator before I did this video. So as you can see, call it 40 grand in repairs on this house, when really we thought, you know, if you take off 2,000 there, take off, you know, 1,000 here, we're being conservative, take off, maybe we do appliances there, you know, 5,000 there, you take off that whole 5,000 we weren't expecting, that whole 3,500 we weren't expecting, some of the other miscellaneous stuff, I mean, you're at 8,500, 13,500, 14, $18,000 to $20,000 in extra costs, you know, just call it $20,000 extra on this house for repairs. That's a crazy amount, and that's why this was a crazy flip, and that doesn't include all the increased costs from holding it as long as we did either. All right, so we talked about the repairs. Now let's talk about the carrying costs, which a lot of people forget about or don't include, like house flipping shows, for instance. You will have these costs when you own a house. It's not free to own a house. You have property taxes. We're in Colorado, which has one of the lowest property tax rates in the country. $941 a year for taxes in Colorado, but we own the house for 16 months, so that ended up being $1,254. They do prorate your taxes when you sell a house or buy a house to the day you buy them. Utilities, right? When we own this house, we have the heat running, we have the electric running, we have water, although we don't use a lot of water. During the winter, we have to water the grass, and we're paying for sewer. There are a lot of utilities that add up. We're in Colorado. We can't just turn the heat off. We have to have the heat on during the winter. And if you have a house for 16 months, I mean, those things just exponentially go up. Insurance, same thing. We have to have insurance on the house when we own it because we're getting loans on them. Our lenders require us to have insurance. That keeps going up and up the longer you own the property. And maintenance, something else people forget all the time. While we own this house, we can't just let it sit there and let the grass get 4 feet long or let it pile up with snow. We have to have people mowing the lawn. We have to have people come out to do snow removal if it snows. We did have a pretty snowy year last year, and do yard cleanup once in a while. So when you have 16 months of that going on, that adds up as well. So we had over $8,500 in just carrying costs on this property. And if we would have sold in 6 months, which is what we should have done, it probably would have been less than half of that. So we had a lot of extra expenses because of the time we held this flip. Now we're going to talk about financing costs, which makes me kind of sick to my stomach to look at because we held this property for so long, and the longer you hold it, the more money you're going to spend. So on this loan, I used a private lender who I've used quite a bit. He actually found me through my blog and YouTube, which is cool. The purchase price was $155, but he likes to lend repairs too. So as soon as I buy the house, I actually get a check back from closing with him. So the total loan was $175 for this one. I pay 2 points when I buy it, so that's $3,500. Points are a percent of the loan that a lot of lenders charge on hard money, on private money. When you get a loan on a regular house, they'll call it an origination fee, but it's basically the same thing. It's usually much lower when you're getting an owner-occupied loan or a loan from a bank. And then 9% interest, which seems crazy high to a lot of people, but those are kind of the going rates for private loans, hard money loans, loans of this nature. Now, if we had this house a year, that would be $15,750 interest. Since we held it so long, $21,000 in interest. That's crazy. So our total financing costs were $24,500. Again, if we flip this house in 6 months, that's more like $9,000 or $10,000, something like that. So huge amounts of costs were added onto this because of the financing and how long it took us to flip. All right, now we're talking about selling costs, because when you sell a house, it costs money to sell it too, which is something a lot of people forget or skip over. You have to pay a real estate commission on almost every deal. We do too. I'm a real estate agent. I own a real estate brokerage. I still pay a commission on 95% of the houses that we sell, because most likely buyers are going to be represented by other agents, and we get the most money selling those houses to buyers that have agents. If we try to sell them all on our own, we might be able to do it, but it's a lot more work for us to find those buyers, represent them, hold open houses, do all that, which we could do, but it's more work, and we're limiting the buyer pool by 90%, which means we're gonna sell the house for less money. So overall, we sell the house for less money and it's more work is not something I like to do. So we're always willing to pay another agent. Now I don't have to pay a listing agent to do it, but I pay another agent. So 3% of what our selling price was, $227,000 is that number right there. We have title work. So we have to use a title company who guarantees clear title to the new buyer. That's usually $1,200 in that range in Colorado. In other states, it's different. You might use an attorney. Title fees could be higher. These costs can vary greatly depending on what state you're in. So don't assume that if you're in Pennsylvania or Maryland, your costs will be the same as my costs, because they won't be. In New York, your costs will be double this, maybe even higher for some of the title attorney fees and transfer taxes too. We don't have those in Colorado. Closing fees, we have some closing fees, flood certifications, things like that around there. And then we paid $5,000 for the buyer's closing costs on this deal too. So a lot of times buyers will ask the seller to pay closing costs for them, covers their origination fee, which we talked about, appraisal, sometimes other loan costs, so they can come into the deal with less cash, helps some buyers be able to buy a house who otherwise could not. So basically I said, we sold it for $227,500, but we paid $5,000 of their costs. So really the net price to us was $222,500, but total selling costs right there, $13,525. Now we're to the least fun part of this video, where I calculate the profit. So it was not a good flip for us, but it could have been, but it wasn't. So I put the profit in red because that'll give you an idea of how much money we made, even though my red marker's a little bit dead. It's okay. So we bought it for $155,000, $100,000. Repairs, I just rounded some of these numbers up to make it easier for me. $40,000. Selling costs $13,500. Carrying costs $8,600. Financing costs $24,500. All this adds up to a very bad number of $241,750, or very close to there. We sold the house for $227,500. That's not good. That means, if I can do my math correctly, $14,250 is how much money we lost on this deal. Yuck. But There is one small thing that helped us when I bought it. I'm a real estate agent, so I make a commission when I buy properties too. And I made $4,653 when I bought it. So we lost just under 10,000. I don't even know if you can see that down in the corner, but it says 10,000. Considering all the crazy stuff that happened on this flip, that really isn't that bad. And if you consider how much money we could have saved had this flip gone right, we probably would have had a pretty decent flip. I mean, this is cut by 20,000. Selling costs would be about the same. That's not a big deal. Carrying costs would probably be cut by 5,000 at least. Financing costs probably cut by at least 13,000, if not more. You get $38,000 there. We would have made 28,000 had things gone somewhat decent on this flip. And that's what happens sometimes. You have good flips, you have bad flips, you have flips that go great, you have flips that go horrible. That's not a terrible loss for a flip that had just about everything go wrong that possibly could go wrong. So do I wish we made money? Yes. But we still got through it. If you look at the positive side of it, we found a good foundation company who didn't charge us $80,000. If we had to pay $80,000 in that foundation, what, we lose $100,000 on this flip or $80,000 on it, or I keep it as a rental and it loses money for a bunch of years, you know, just it could have been much, much worse. Even though it flooded, it wasn't a crazy damaging flood. It didn't destroy us. We still, you know, redid the kitchen, redid the flooring, things that added value to the house if we hadn't done those things and tried to keep it the same. So maybe it sold for a little more than it would have if we didn't make all those repairs. So it wasn't all lost money, and maybe that's not, you know, maybe that's 25 or 20 instead of the 28,000 if things go exactly as planned. Plus, prices might have gone up a little bit while we held this property, so maybe it doesn't sell for quite as much if things go as planned, if we sell it quicker too. But those are just unknowns, variables that could go either way. The house was on the market so long that it might have had a stigma with it as well, that, hey, what's wrong with this house? Why do they keep pulling it? Why does it keep coming back on the market? Why do people not buy it? And that could have actually lowered our price too. So there's all kinds of different things to consider. But overall, we lost money. It happens. We'll move on. We'll keep flipping houses. Doing a lot more high margin flips this year, so we'll have some probably pretty good deals to go over, hopefully, fingers crossed, as long as the coronavirus doesn't shut everything down permanently, but we're opening up here now. So it's okay. Thank you for watching. Really appreciate all the comments, the subscribers, the likes, all that good stuff. Please give us those thumbs up. That helps us. We'll have more videos like this coming up. They take some work, so I can't pump them out as quickly as my other videos, but I do have more coming, and we'll be back with more. Be sure to check out investformore.com as well if you're really looking to get into real estate investing.